Monchi's podcast.
Sick. Everything is recording perfect. Yeah, then first and foremost, I really appreciate that you come on to the podcast. Yeah, and I don't know how to start, but I will start with, how was your day, man?
Oh man, I'm actually doing pretty good. I had like a long weekend, and I was in the studio from the early morning because I just have like my daily routine. So I'm basically getting up, getting some coffee, and then I get into the studio.
Yeah.
So I'm really good.
Nice.
How are you?
Yeah, good as well. My son was here this morning, but this morning actually I could sleep really long in comparison to every other morning when my son sleeps here. He just woke up at 7:40, so this is pretty late. When do you wake usually up and start to make music?
It depends a little bit on, because I'm old, so I usually wake up like between 5 and 6. Now I'm trying to delay it a little bit, so I'm basically coming closer to 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
But it during the last years, because of my regular work, it became like my daily routine to really get up, go into the studio, because I'm really fast and creative in the morning, while I'm not fast and not creative in the evening.
Yeah, same, definitely, man. Yeah, it's like, to me, it's like in the morning, I don't have all these like experiences from the day. I'm more fresh. I'm more open to everything. I'm less exhausted. Everything. Yeah, I just easier can access the flow state. But when I experience the whole day already and being a little bit exhausted, sitting in front of the DAW, it's just too overwhelming a lot of times.
Exactly the same over here, and I feel if you go like from making music in the early morning, your ears are really fresh, your brain is not influenced, just as you said, and there's a proof for that. We are basically more into figuring out a lot of stuff in the early morning. And our brain is just like processing information faster. So it's like if you write in the early morning, like write a letter or write a report or something like that, you will be way faster than doing that in the evening or in the afternoon.
Yeah, that just confirms what I felt all the time.
yeah, it is just like that. And there's a lot of stuff about our brain, you know. Usually we get it on an intuitive level, and by now, because brain science and some other science things are getting closer to how our brain works, we're getting proofs for that right now.
Nice. Yeah, man, I actually, when I was younger, I was like, because I slept the whole morning until noon or whatever, there was like more natural to me, or most of the time I made music like in the evening and through the night, but this changed radically. Like, it's now completely the opposite. To be honest, it's like when starting in the afternoon making music, it has such a high entrance barrier, or I need a big chunk of motivation to wait until Ableton is open and to navigate again through the project. So most likely it won't happen. Just maybe creating presets or simpler stuff. Like, yeah, but
Yeah, I can feel you so much. I guess when I'm really into making like, or when I have some ideas, I usually go for sound design when I want to be in my studio in the afternoon or in the evening, because you can like still do some sound design if you know your tools, if you know your synthesizers, but being like really creative without overthinking it. Like, you know, you just said the magic word. It's like getting into a flow.
yeah,
And I'm really having a hard time getting into a state of flow when it's not morning. And besides that, my daily routine is kind of something I feel very privileged about, because, you know, I'm having the chance to get up in the morning, then I'm having like a couple of hours time, and then I gotta go for my regular work, but I'm really having like 3, 4, 5 hours of time every single day,
nice.
and discipline and structure and being so free in my decision to really do it because I want to do it is something I'm feeling privileged about it.
Nice. Yeah, you were speaking of sound design, where I just was wondering, or the question came to my mind, like if you have at the moment like a favorite sound design procedure you like to do.
Um, I'm about to release my first bank for the emulation of the virus, the virus one, and I'm not having like a priority when it comes to how to go for sound design or a main idea. I have my synthesizers I really love. Now it
Yeah.
was like the it was so nice to explore it and to go for the more limited
Yeah.
way of really developing presets in limited in relation to Serum or to Vital or to some other VSTs where you kind of have a huge amount of modulation slots and a huge amount of LFOs. But usually I'm just going for, okay, I have a crazy idea and I have an idea in my head how it has to sound. And then I got to figure out, is that possible? Can I do it with the synthesizer I'm into? Now I was just exploring the nodal red, the emulation of the Node lead. And it's so limited. And that, that limitation is a huge amount of fun, because you really got to rethink how you design stuff, and only slight minimal modulations like make a big difference. And that's something that's pretty fun. Yeah, but when I go for my favorite one, which is Serum, which is pretty obvious. It's funny because it sounds a little bit weird, but I know Serum that well that I mostly create the presets in my head. Before I'm creating them inside of, so I'm going to work, I'm always walking, so on my walks I have an idea, and then I basically set up the modulations in my head, and then I just gotta reprogram them inside of Serum, and that's super fun. And it gets even more fun when you figure out, oh my god, this works.
Yeah, this definitely a huge step in like to create like presets in your own head, and then realizing afterwards that when you go on to Serum or whatever and making it, and it's exactly like you imagine it, it's like a huge step in self-efficacy. Yes.
It definitely is. And it is like some kind of compliment, because it's a compliment towards your own brain, because you really know your shit.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. And I always feel it's so nice to know your way around something, because knowing something leads to just more knowledge, and you always figure out more stuff if you dive deeper into something and deeper into something. And that's something that I feel it's one of the most fun parts in making music and the creative process.
Yeah, 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 I agree. It's also funny that you were mentioning that you are right now on the track and sound design of choosing like really limited soft synths or synthesizers like the Osiris or the Nordlead emulation. Because for me, right now it's the opposite. I'm super much into Faceplant. Like, and this is like unlimited stuff. Yeah. It's so fucking crazy. I recently was also a little bit like into, I just watched like sound design tutorials on YouTube for like games or movies, not so much musical stuff, more like sound effects. And there's like a really very nice and very funny quick process I want to share with you. And there's this thing called rolling sampler. I don't know if you are familiar with it. It's a VST. And
No.
you can slam it, for example, on the master, and you will have like audio track recording in real time, like a window. And then if you play something in your track, you can just drag and drop it from the audio curve in this rolling sampler and drag it onto an audio track in your project. So you don't need to record anymore anything, because this VST is recording everything for you in real time, and then you can just drag and drop the stuff you like. It's
Okay.
It's a game changer in workflow. Definitely, I can recommend it a lot.
I will definitely try that out.
Yeah, so for example, I have like in my project, I have like a source group or folder where I have an instance of Serum, Vital, etc. And on this group, I have this rolling sampler. So everything which happens in this group will record it into this VST, and then I can just drag and drop it onto audio tracks if something is occurring which I like for the vision of my track. But this is just the first step, because in Faceplant you have like this really sick granular engine, or also the sampler. So you could jam sounds in Faceplant, for example, in the granular engine, which get recorded into the rolling sampler. And then you can just drag and drop the new created sound from the rolling sampler and drag it into the Faceplant granular engine again, and have like a really fast recursive process, which can lead to unexpected
crazy stuff. I definitely hear that you are into like experimenting with audio a lot and granular engines and stuff. Actually, my probably favorite sound design tools are these granular engines, or the pretty simple noise oscillator from Serum, because if every sample, every bounce from a track has such a unique character, and if you then go for further manipulation, you will always have something super, super unique.
Yeah. I also like the noise sampler in Serum, because you can like pretty easily, when you just drag in some percussion sounds or whatever, can get like these exponential sound effect type stuff when you tweak the pitch knob on the noise oscillator and just press the button. And I really like this. But and it's like Serum and Vital also, it's like crazy to me, but at the moment I feel like there's like getting a lot of dust on my Serum and Vital VSTs. I haven't used them in a while because also I was checking out this new updated version of Minimal Audio's current synthesizer. I don't know if you are familiar with that one, but it has now like this big XY pad in the play section. It's what's new, and there you can control like the macro knobs 1 and 2, macro 1 and 2 in the XY pad. So like tweaking both at the same time with just the mouse, one click. It's like for me the revival of the XY pad thing, because this modulation stuff is insane. And in Ableton you can do, like, for example, if I map then in Faceplant stuff onto macro 1 and 2 in Ableton, I will have like in my Faceplant instance also this small like XY pad down in the track. And man, it's such a simple idea.
It is. I saw your video on it, and I'm definitely going to try it. I feel if you go Portal, you have that XY pad too, and it's just like fun, and it's those tools that are really built for happy accidents. You just like scroll through, or you just program them to your MIDI controller, and then you just jam on different things, and at a certain point you'll have something that sounds killer.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So yeah, that's the reason I'm not using Vital and Serum at the moment. I'm sure they will come back.
Do you sometimes have like a moment where you feel like super overwhelmed by the possibilities? Not only when it comes to Faceplant, but in general. I had a moment. I was on one of my walks. It's just like a couple of days ago, and I was like going through ideas in my head for a new track. And I was like, oh my God, you have to do this, you have to do that. Oh, you have to try this, you have to try that. And then all the different tools I'm having in my arsenal kind of came to my mind. And I was like feeling, oh my God, where to start now? Do you sometimes have something like that?
Of course. Yes, of course. I think there's also like a word for this. It's called option paralysis. So you have so many options that you end up like doing nothing because you're so overwhelmed, you're paralyzed. Because so this is where also like these creative limitations are pretty handy. If you reduce your options and the way you can go and the possibilities, you will get much faster sometimes a result, because you're not stuck in deciding what to do now. Yeah.
Yes, and if we're going back to the limitations now, it is a challenge for yourself. For me, it's always like a challenge to get the most out of something with like a limited amount of possibilities. And we all know Serum, we all know Vital, we all know Pigments, and we know how much we can get out of it. But going for some analog recordings with like super limited possibilities, and then kind of manipulating stuff further with tools you have, and that is something that always it really makes me feel comfortable and makes me feel good in a super special way, because in the end you hear it and you remember, oh my God, it was just like a basic squelch made with the mini brute. And in the end, you have like huge textures or some glitchy stuff. But it was just like something super basic in the beginning.
Yeah, I had like a while ago, I had Virus Snow, the really small one, the smallest one. But I like in my expectations were really big. I was like, okay, I purchased this Virus synth, and it's like one of the Psytrance hardware synthesizers there are, even it's a digital one, but never mind. And yeah, I was expecting like crazy sounds, and then I just plugged it in. The first downgrade for me was like that I had the feeling I just purchased like a big metal box in order to have a key to unlock the VST plugin. So in the end I was again just using the VST, but the official one, because it just has like 3 knobs, and it's like and then also like to have like this limitations. I had the feeling it has some pretty neat sounds, and the algorithms, they are fucking nice and really clean, but in the end I often realized that I'd be like, I could do this in Serum. I could do this in Serum. And I felt like really blocked in my I couldn't handle the limitations, in other words, so I decided to let
go
it
back
go.
to Serum.
Go back to Serum.
Just go back to Serum. But you know, it's so. I'm pretty sure, man, you will come to a point where you appreciate it as much as I do, because you know. Yesterday I was playing around with. I got that ASM Hydrosynth. Mm-hmm. And I was for the first time playing around with like doing some atmospheric stuff. And as I love comb filters, it has no comb filter, so you gotta fake it with a delay, so you kind of get it with flanging, chorus, and delay. Yeah. And I was sitting in front of that thing, and it has no VST, so you gotta press the knobs all the time and play around and go through the matrix. Yeah. And I was using like 1.5 hours to just create like one atmosphere. Yeah. And I used like 2 bars in the track I'm working on of that atmosphere. I could have done it in Serum in 5 seconds, and then it would have taken. You know what I mean? It is. In a certain way, it's a little bit absurd, but I think being creative, going for all that stuff, like really diving into sound design, not writing presets, is also the process of spending hours and hours and failing and trying again and getting to know and being frustrated because it doesn't work, and all of this in the way it is makes me feel super, super good about the fun of the creative process, you know?
Yeah, I definitely know the feeling when you when I just sit there and just listen to the stuff. Not recording anything, but just sit here and listen to how the sound is changing while I tweak some knobs. It's super mesmerizing. And it's a big part of why I am enjoying the stuff so much and keep going to pursue this path. And of course, it's not all the time about being like super efficient and super productive and just making tracks. I think if you just go into making psytrance or any music with this motivation, you won't have fun for a long time. It will get super frustrating and daunting and annoying.
And actually, I know a lot of people that no, that's maybe it's wrong like that. I know some people that are making music to get famous, to get blah 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 blah. And if you see all of the creative process as a whole as something that is something you're making because of the process itself, and you can add to that process whatever you like. You can start loving reverbs and you dive into every reverb we have on this planet just because you love reverbs, but then it's part of your creative process. And I think it becomes a little bit more authentic it's just my individual way of dealing with it. Doing stuff without any purpose, but for the thing itself, creates something that is very special, and I feel it's very authentic in the creative process.
Yeah.
And you will hear it in the result. And making music is not always about creating another track, doing a new preset bank, doing a new sample pack. It is also about doing something you really like, and that you can, something that gets you in that state of flow, that gives you the chance to dive into something and to feel overwhelmed and to feel comfortable, and there's so much more to it, you know?
Yeah. I have the feeling that I really often or regularly running in this trap where I'm just in a productive mindset and finishing tracks, getting releases, and it's like really hard for me to, or sometimes really challenging to escape like this mindset, or it's yeah, it always doesn't feel nice when I'm realizing that which path I was pursuing, that I wanted to achieve something else with my music than just making it for the sake of making it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I definitely know what you mean, but I feel if you really love what you do, and if you're really authentic and not copying, or we all copy, but you know what I mean. If you're not copy on purpose just to sound like any other artist or like a specific artist, at a certain point, your music will probably get attention.
Yeah, definitely.
That is. But if you're kind of forcing it, I don't know. For sure it works. But I don't know if it could be my way of dealing with making music, because it's a little funny when I restarted making music after a long break. It was just because I needed to balance out my life in general. I needed something that would give me the chance to kind of get rid of some stress, to kind of lose myself in something. And there was never the idea behind it to kind of release stuff and to get into a label and to get gigs. It was only about making music for myself.
Yeah. That's a pretty pure intention. I feel like when I started, so my like intention is always changing a little bit, but when I started, it was of course because I wanted to play gigs and I wanted to share my vision of what's nice psytrance, what fits best to my emotional expression, with a huge crowd of people, and to be like appreciated and accepted by a big crowd of people for what's my idea and my authentic decisions and whatever. But in this vision I had, I'm like super dependent on other people, I realized, and of course it's like way better and wiser if I manage to give myself this appreciation and accept myself more for what I am, and being independent of the people on the dance floors or whatever. But this there was definitely a shift in my motivation, and it wasn't like this from the beginning. In the beginning I really wanted to be that guy on top of the stage.
I think the own attitude towards making music changes a lot during the process of the career or whatever, and I don't feel it's it's like bad having a purpose. Like, I want to share my vision of music. I want to play. Now I want to play in front of crowds. I want to share my music. I wanted to share it when I figured out, okay, it sounds decent. It was ambient back then. It was no psytrance. And I just created a SoundCloud. So I wanted to share it.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, you're getting to a point where you really want to where you want to share it with other people, with DJs and DJs, with labels, but I still think that there is still that first moment is still there where I go inside my studio and I'm having fun, you know? I'm just having fun.
Yeah, totally gotcha. Yeah, man, there's also like a topic we wanted to discuss about like sitting there in the studio and like the contrast of sitting at home and then bringing this music to the dance floors where a lot of people are like in a completely different state of consciousness. Like
I guess we can. I guess we can say
high on
drugs.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, to me, it's also, it feels like so disconnected when I sit in the studio, and I can remember like when I was younger, fucking high on the dance floor, and it'd be like, how do the producers or the DJs know how it feels now for me? And how do they know that the stuff works like it works? But yeah, what would you said to my younger self as an explanation?
I would probably tell your younger self that if you know psychedelic mind states, and if you know how to experience music in psychedelic mind states, you're definitely able to kind of get into a mindset or a flow where you really know what your music will sound like on the dance floor for people in different mind states.
Yeah.
And I had a fun talk with Jonas Tristan about it, you know, Cosmic Playground, because when you do it, when you play with a squelch, you know, with a squelch, like with filters and delay and reverb, it sounds psychedelic all the time. So it just has to do something with your mind. You don't have to be drugged. Yeah. It's just psychedelic in itself.
Yeah.
And if you and I feel if I'm sitting in the studio for like a long time, I can get myself into a mood and a mind state where I can really feel and know what my music will do with people.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be drugged to kind of do something like that, because you really get yourself into that kind of psychedelic mind state just with the music itself and with creating sounds and breaks and a story throughout a track that people, drugged or not drugged, kind of can dive into.
I also had like another question. What would you, if you had to, what would be like the most psychedelic phenomenon for you in psytrance production? Like, which effects would you rate as like the most mind-bending psychedelic? No, but yeah, like, or if you need to choose one you like the most, or yeah.
Offbeat bass lines. No, just joking. No, I I always think that the most psychedelic thing I can create is huge build-ups and breakdowns where everything falls apart and comes together. And I think it has nothing to do with the tools I use or with the sounds. Like, it's just like breaking something, and it's like building with Lego bricks, you know, like breaking it up and getting it together. It's something that I'm still loving the most. And I remember moments back from the days, you know, listening to Extreme, you know, and there was that album called Radio, and they played it live many, many times. And the guys back then, they really knew about the psychedelic way of creating those build-ups and breakdowns with the limited possibilities back then. You know, it was like in the early 2000s. And I was always on the dance floor, and I was like, oh my God, how do they do it?
Yeah.
And it's still, if I'm listening to those tracks, it's still mind-melting, because they tell a story throughout a full track, and that's what they do. They rip it apart, and then they put it together in a beautiful way, and then the story goes on and on and on. And that was my motivation in the beginning when I started to create my way of building breakdowns and build-ups. I wanted to be that psychedelic. That was the thing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you definitely got a point there. Yeah, to me, it's like what I consider as a very psychedelic effect is like the possibility to create like surreal rooms or surreal, like, because in every reverb or delay or whatever you can implement a certain information of the room, like where if you are like in a big cathedral or whatever, and like to have sounds with different room informations which not fit each other, so to be like just with your ears in a kind of space which couldn't exist in reality. Like this phenomenon, I would consider for me is like a very, very strong psychedelic effect, to be like in a surreal room where like suddenly an effect is opening like a really big room and then gets like into another big room, whatever, straight to your ears back again. Yeah, like to have like this surreal movement, and the room is stretching and shrinking in very unnatural ways. I consider this as fucking psychedelic.
Yes, it is. And it's basically something. What you told me right now is like, it's like playing with the laws of physics, you know, like melting space-time in a reverb, in a delay, like you know, like really doing something that is impossible on a natural level, to say like that. So and I remember somebody years ago told me when it came to mixing, he gave me a simple tip, and he explained to me, I'm visualizing my mixes as a three-dimensional ball, and inside of it I place everything. And that was the only thing he said. But my brain actually started to imagine music like sitting inside that ball, and being in the middle of it, and then I could place like stuff all around, and then your soundscapes come back into the game. You know,
Yeah.
you can place them wherever you want, and people on the dance floor or at home or on their walks or wherever, they can sink into those dimensions you created.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think also which I tapped into recently, like a lot, like in the last months, or this was like a really big breakthrough for me, to have like, yeah, actually 100% different sounds on the left and right speaker. For example, in Vital, you have, or also in Serum, you can go like to the global unison settings and yeah, extend them to like 48 semitones instead of just 2. And then if you detune whatever a saw wave, like on the one side of the speaker, it will get pitched up. If you have like two voices, yeah. On the one side, it will get pitched up and on the other pitched down. And then, yeah, you can add some psychedelic effects, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But if you have like these sounds and they will be like completely different on the left and right speaker, you still have the middle for like another sound, for like a, yeah, screeching FM or whatever. And to have like this, to use like it really efficient, like the whole stereo spectrum, not just to have like really wide sounds, but also like different sounds on the left and right. It creates so much more space, and this is what I'm doing now. Yeah, it's like a standard technique I use in sound design. What happens if I route this effect to the one speaker and this effect to the other speaker? It's interesting results.
Sometimes it's just like the simple tricks, like what you just said. It's not a simple trick, but it's a killer trick. Or just going for some crazy panning, and then you can kind of adjust a delay with milliseconds, so it's a little bit off. And then it's just like a tiny bit off. So your brain just realizes there is something different going on. It's not off the grid, it's not off the beat, but it's that tiny little, and that's the thing. And that's the fun thing about making music. We have to trick our brain, and we have to trick the brain of the listener to make it a unique experience.
Yeah.
Because we have like, our brain's perception is like so configured, and it's so much defined by our expectations. And as most things are ongoing, so we are hearing what we expect, and people produce what we want to expect. So that's like an ongoing circle. And to break that circle is kind of a fun thing.
Yeah, it's like a balance between breaking or disappointing the expectation, but still keeping the flow. Like it's a balance to me all the time, because if you break the expectations all the time, yeah, the people will get like too disappointed to listen to the music. And if you give them every time what they expect, they will get bored. So
exactly, and you will get bored too, man. If you sit in your studio and you're just like working out your formulas, Formula A, Formula B leads to Formula C, and that's probably something I also love, like creating build-ups and breakdowns. If I can sit in my studio all on my own and I can laugh off my ass, because it's so far beyond what I had in mind of my expectations, you know, like just breaking every rule, but just breaking them for like 16 bars and then getting back to a structured formula. But doing it makes me laugh, makes me have goosebumps, makes me like really enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah, man, I need to show you my new track after.
Yes.
And, because I would say I did something like this. Sorry to the listeners. Maybe also can hear the track soon somewhere, somewhere. But yeah, man, I'm really into that. And I also know there are like some people which are like going straight for formula stuff, and yeah, I think it also can have like some really mechanical vibe to it, which is, or it's like the opposite of a live, or it's like a process a machine could do. Like so in some music I'm missing like the in quotation marks human influence, like if it's just like hocketing, like cutting different leads all the time, yeah, like a machine could do this, or when the influence of the personality is like missing a little bit.
Yes, I don't know if a machine could do this, but I feel exactly what you said. People tend to just serve expectations.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I feel it's something when the music was pretty new, when the if you listen to let's say Simon Posford as Hallucinogen, the
yeah,
first album, The Lone Deranger, is like a masterpiece. And if you know it, and if you listen to what he did back then, he never served any expectation. He just created a musical journey beyond what people had heard back then.
yeah,
And today, it's like with every other musical genre or in literature or wherever, it is like at a certain point we have formulas and we know these formulas work. And it's rock music, heavy metal, hip hop. It's the same all around.
yeah,
And there's nothing bad to it in first place, but it leads to it leads to different attitudes. In a certain way, you can just like serve the expectations and you can probably be like pretty successful with it when you know how to deal with it.
yeah,
And that's an attitude towards it. But there's a different attitude when you decide to take the best from the expectations, but to still mangle them up
yeah,
in a certain way. And probably, oh no, it might be a difficult way because it might challenge the listener.
yeah,
And sometimes listeners don't want to get challenged. They just want to listen to Formula A. And
yeah,
it's totally okay because they know it and they want to dance to it and they want to dive into it. But I feel it's a personal decision what kind of attitude you want to have towards it. And
yeah, man.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying either the one is bad or the one is good. It's a decision you have to take.
Yeah, I feel this like in my style of music I try to perceive, or when I listen to my tracks, I often have the sensation that it's like breaking expectations a lot of time, or changing like a lot. So it's really hard, I think, to get into like a trance state, or at least for me, while listening to my music, I experience it as changing a lot, and there's all the time something new. So yeah, it's really hard to rest in some way and to get taken away by a trance state, like getting into a tunnel where it's like all the time the same in quotation marks. But yeah, and sometimes I'm really insecure about it, if it should be like more trancey and less unpredictable. But I guess it's just my music. That's where I went up. It's my music. It's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that.
Exactly. And if it's your music and it feels authentic, it's there is no given right to get into a mind state of trance when listening to dance music.
Yeah.
It is not like a universal law.
Yeah.
It is one way to experience it, but there are a million other ways to kind of deal with making music and to challenge the listener while listening or dancing.
Yeah.
And I had some experiences. I was on those festivals this summer and last summer, and I don't know when. And this summer I went to Burning Mountain, and at a certain point on Saturday night I went to the big dance floor, to the main floor, and some Psytrance live set was played. I'm not that much into Psytrance, so I don't know who played, and I didn't look on the timetable. But actually everything was produced super fat and sounding super fat. Every little sound was so much on point that I was really impressed by the quality, like really impressed. But on the other hand, I could predict every little thing. You know, I wasn't into the music. I don't know who played. I didn't know the track, but I could tell exactly what would happen. And I was like, okay, this is a way of dealing. And the crowd loved it. They were celebrating it. And it's totally okay, man, because it was good. But for me, it's not my way of dealing with making music and with challenging myself and with... When I do something just like you do, when I do something unpredictable, it is fun. And it makes me rethink the way I make music and the way I create and build arrangements and sound designs and all that stuff. And I don't want to miss that part of the process, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
and that's just it. And I'm once again, I'm not saying this is good or this is bad. It's just a totally different way of dealing with making music.
Yeah.
And on the dance floor of the Burning Mountain Festival, man, people definitely got into a mindset of flow and like really into trance. And if you wanna experience that, and if you wanna experience that kind of predictable music, go for it. You know, it's really like go for it and enjoy it because it's good. And as that man, it was so high quality. I was like, really, wow, that guy knows his shit. but for me, it's just like for you. It's not the way I want to make music.
Yeah, it also doesn't make me move a lot if I know what's next. It's just it steals my excitement a little bit, which is just a personal preference. But yeah, to me, it's like I want to be challenged. I want to be overwhelmed. I want to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. I want to be on the dance floor. And I want to stop dancing because my brain is like, what's going on here?
I want to get it smashed.
yeah, exactly. And I want my brain to get rewired in a certain way, you know, like I want to activate new parts of my brain when listening to music.
Yeah.
But I feel as the scene is so diverse by now, and so many influences and people and musical influences, it offers a lot for a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And I think the music we make, or going even darker, like coming to the foresty stuff, or it is not something for everyone because it also gotta you know. In certain ways, you got to train your listening patterns, but that's a decision because if you don't want to do that, you will basically love full on, and that is full on. It's not a bad example. You will love music that is like more predictable and maybe getting back into melodies and getting back into predictable note lines and all that thing.
Yeah. Totally gotcha. Having like big tension building up with an FM lead and then dropping into an offbeat.
Yeah.
I can imagine like 10 tracks at the same time, which are all different, but yeah.
But basically those build-ups and breakdowns, they are basically Formula A. At a certain point, and I experienced, I'm old, I experienced the time when offbeat came up. And
wow, I couldn't imagine like that offbeat wasn't a thing. Like,
offbeat wasn't a thing.
Tell me about it.
Actually, it started with a track, like it really got popular with a track from Atmos called Klein aber Doktor.
What the fuck?
You know it?
No, I don't know.
Okay,
Klein aber Doktor. Klein aber
Doktor. It was the track that made Atmos, the artist, famous.
Okay.
And it was the initial start of offbeat.
Wow.
Like, that's the way I remember it, and it's probably like that. And then I was in Hamburg a lot back then, and Hamburg became kind of the proggy offbeat city, and it still is.
The capital of offbeat music.
The capital of offbeat, exactly. But with global influence by now.
Yeah.
But it worked. Those offbeat bass lines, it worked.
Yeah.
And they made something very special with the energy, and everybody started to use it.
Yeah.
And then it got now adapted and transformed in a million ways. But the initial thing, going from a 16th bass line with leads or arpeggiators or melody or whatever, and then cutting it, breaking it down to an offbeat part, or now it's a glide bass line part.
Yeah.
It still works, and it will always work because it does something with our brain.
Yeah.
And that's just the thing. So somebody figured out, okay, that's the formula. It works always. And so we just stick to it.
Yeah, there are definitely moments where I really appreciate it. If it's in an unpredictable way or not, like if it doesn't get introduced like the standard way, whatever this is, but I have like a picture in my mind of the standard introduction of beat bassline. So if it gets introduced in a new way which surprises me, I'm definitely 100% on board. Like for example, where I was like really surprised was the new project by Nico, this Polish
I was thinking about it.
music. Yeah, man. Yeah, like what the fuck? It's like I can remember how you sent me like the tracks of the VA, and to give some feedback on what I think about it. And I can remember like listening to the first track, and it was like an offbeat track, but the whole like night psy BPM, but the whole track's like offbeat, no 16s rolling bass line. And it was like, okay, it's the first track, it's the introduction track of the VA. So listening to the next track, and then like, okay, funny coincidence. The next track also is just offbeat bass line. And then coming to the third track, I was already expecting an offbeat bass line, and then just by the fourth track, I was like, okay, this whole thing is just offbeat bass line, the whole thing. What the fuck? It's crazy, fresh, new idea. Actually, it's also a simple idea, but still, it's, I think, a really nice, refreshing take on what psychedelic music can be.
Definitely, and actually, I know we talked about it, and Nico asked me for a track for his next VA.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh my God, this is so challenging to do a nighttime psytrance track with only offbeat and glide bass lines. So I started it and I finished it within 3 days because I was getting into that bubble and rabbit hole, and I was like, oh my God, there's so much potential in being limited in that way. So I had a huge amount of fun, and actually I like the vision Nico has behind it, because it's called urban psytrance, you know. It's kind of mixing up things, and there is an idea behind it. And I like when people have a vision and an idea to have a fundament to build their vision on.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah, I'm pretty curious if we are like witnessing really the birth of like a new genre, and if it's like in 2 years from now, urban psytrance, they play urban psytrance. I'm curious, and I'm also like impressed how like I'm not sure how the whole process started and how the idea came up, but to what I experienced, or it seems to me like he had the idea of this thing and he reached out to artists and asked them if they would do a track like this. So, man, if it's in the end really this one guy really want to create like this genre and asking the people, hey, can you make me tracks like this, man? It's so funny.
yeah. I actually think it was that way. We have to ask Nico, but I think it was that, because at a certain point he told me that he had to give some guidance on how to deal with his idea. And as that, man, it's so freaky. If you're getting into that offbeat thing, you gotta rethink how to program your drums and your leads and your glitches and whatever, because the bass line won't change. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing in Night Psy all the time is trying to work with changing bass lines and all that stuff. Yeah. And you're limited. You only have that offbeat bass line, and you can add a glide bass line, but doing it and really rethinking how to bring energy to a track is fun. And as that, man, I was like in that bubble for 3 days, and then I came out of my studio. Oh my God, this is reality. What the fuck is going on here?
It's still hard at some point to, because my brain is so wired to listening at some point to the rolling bass line. So I still had like a kind of resistance, or my brain is at some point like, man, where's the fucking rolling bass line?
Oh, come on, you waited like 4 tracks for the rolling bass line when listening to the VA.
But it's just something. I will get definitely used to it, and I'm also curious how it feels like 1 hour or 1 hour and a half on a dance floor. I'm curious. I'm really curious. Maybe one day I will experience like an urban psytrance set.
Actually, I'm curious to listen to one. He plays them now, so it's just like 1 hour of offbeat bass lines and glide bass lines, but still on 150, 152 BPM. Yeah. And I think also for the listener's experience on a party, where you have like a wide range of how to set up a timetable, it is a killer idea. Because the timetables are getting more and more advanced when it comes to when do we play what kind of music. And since high tech is in the game, it came even more advanced to kind of get different moods and to serve expectations of totally different people that are going to a party.
Yeah, man, high tech is also a thing like this offbeat bass line. I think it's not that old. I mean, for me, it was always there, but I guess you witnessed like the birth of high tech.
A world without high tech. I witnessed it. Okay, come on. I'm always talking to Patrick because he has that high tech project. Shit happens now,
Yeah.
and honestly, it's the one music I can't get into.
Okay.
It's just the one music. Nothing. There's nothing that touches me.
Yeah. Oh man, I had like Oxydaxy. I had like an intense Oxydaxy phase, like this really pop high tech, like
Yeah.
also high tech with offbeat bass lines, and well, it makes me go crazy. It's like really pop music, but really intense, and I really enjoyed this one. But yeah, if it's it can get like really loose, I think, or also for me really fatiguing to listen to it because it happens so much so fast that it's hard for me to process it. It happens really quick that I'm too fatigued to realize what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, exactly. And I tried to dance to it. So basically, you can't dance to music that's like 200 BPM.
Just kick it.
So I tried to dance to the music on half speed. Like slowing myself down to 100 or 80 BPM, but it doesn't feel right to me. It's there's so many things that I don't know, the sound design, the poppy and EDM-y stuff. It's not mine. But it became a huge scene, and it attracts people like that. And maybe in the beginning, I think it was a very punky way.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, like it was really a punk way of dealing with the with the nighttime music.
Yeah.
Like by just messing it up with like a high BPM.
Yeah.
But the wheel isn't invented in a new way when it comes to high tech.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's when I listen to most of the high tech tracks, it's basically nighttime sound design,
pitched up
with lots of poppy samples and EDM-y ways of dealing with leads and melodies.
Yeah,
but okay, it's honestly, it's just the one.
It's your preference. Yeah, it's your preference. It's totally fair.
I feel like all the slower zenonesque side-tech stuff touches me way more, and it's way more innovative when it comes to especially all that swampy stuff where really things from the forest, from the techno, from the twilight, when everything is melted together. That is something where I hear a lot of innovation, actually.
Yeah, true. Hey man, I also think we already reached an hour, which is like my standard time for the podcast thing, and but before we close and wrap up the thing, I wanted to ask you if there is something you want to share about your project, or as you said, like the preset bank, like where people can check out your recent stuff.
Yes, for sure, man. Going for some self-promotion now. No, just joking.
Now is the moment for self-promotion.
Now is the time for promotion. No, actually, I've just moved into a new job, so I'm having way more time than I had like during the last years. So I'm going for a lot of sound design right now. I'm going for some new Ableton racks. Even more weird, even glitchier, even more crazy than the first ones. Kind of dive deep into spectral stuff for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like trying to figure out new ways to manipulate samples and wavetables, ways that are not possible inside our beloved VSTs. And then I actually created a new project with my friend Jonas, just because I had the idea. Now we're getting back to that swampy zenonesque thing. I really listened to the kind of music a lot, and at a certain point I felt, okay, now you have so many ideas, let's just make a fun project. And my brain isn't able to do things just for fun, so it wants to get serious about things. And now Jonas and I, we created Noize Riots, and the name says what it is.
Nice.
It is about a revolution. We're really into creating like tracks and making some totally new listening experiences, melting up everything from all our projects. He is, Cosmic Playground. He has 280 Rabbits. I'm still having Borderliners. I'm still doing a lot of Inpsyde Out stuff. But that new project kind of fusions all the things together and kind of gets me once again, or gives me the chance to be even more crazy and innovative, and don't give a damn about rules and about what people want to hear and want to expect. It's just like I can drop everything into every project, and it will sound different. Mm-hmm. I feel our projects, at a certain point, we reach a level where every project has its unique sound, and that's something good because people recognize it and they figure out, okay, that's Monchi, that's Cosmic Playground, that's Ollie, that's Labyrinth, that's Zenkai, blah, blah, blah. But it also limits you in a certain way because apart from that, you have your workflow, you also deal with the sound your project has. So
your own formula. Yeah,
exactly. There is a formula when it comes to what kind of sound do I present in my project Inpsyde Out.
Yeah.
So everybody, blah, 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 no. People know my project. And of course they expect something, they just do. And listening to Borderliners, of course people expect something. And now listening to Noize Riots, at a certain point, hopefully, people will expect something. But that's something good because it makes a project unique and to be witnessed as unique.
Yeah.
But I think I still need more projects to get more crazy ideas going. So basically, when I'm not getting bored, but when one project is defined, I always feel like, okay, I will continue all of these projects, but then there is something new I want to explore.
Yeah, gotcha. But where could people check out like this Noize Riot project?
The Noize Riots project is actually on Instagram, just Noize Riots, and we have like our first 2 tracks already, so we are on the 3rd and 4th one, and then we will kind of come up with some first links on SoundCloud, and then we will show what kind of craziness we created.
All right. That sounds very good. So I think this is like now a really good point to wrap up the podcast. We just cut it here und jetzt können wir auf Deutsch sprechen.
Vielen Dank! Sehr geil, ey.
Hey, thanks for listening to Monchi's podcast. If you have any questions or suggestions regarding the show, please let me know in the comments. Furthermore, it helps the podcast to grow if you rate or review it on whatever podcast platform you're listening to it. Thanks in advance for your support. If you furthermore want to get early access to upcoming episodes and support the show financially, head over to patreon.com/Monchi_SquareLab. With that being said, have a good one and see you next time.